Senator Kamala Harris will be the first person of Indian heritage to be nominated for vice president on a major party ticket.
My grandparents were phenomenal. We would go back to India like every other year. My grandfather fought for and was a defender of the freedom of India. When I was a young girl, being the eldest grandchild, my grandfather would take me on his morning walk. All of his buddies who also were great leaders, and they would talk about the importance of fighting for democracy and the importance of fighting for civil rights and that people would be treated equally regardless of where they were born or the circumstances of their birth. Those walks along the beach in India really planted something in my mind and created a commitment in me. Before I even realized it, it has led me to where I am today.
Of India. Senator Kamala.
My mother, who raised me and my sister, was a proud woman. She was a brown woman. She was a woman with a heavy accent. She was a woman who many times people would overlook her or not take her seriously, or because of her accent, assume things about her intelligence. Now, every time my mother proved them wrong. Every time she proved them wrong. And because of who my mother was and what she believed, what she had the ability to dream was possible and then work to make possible, the fact that my mother never asked anyone permission to tell her what was possible is why, within one generation, I stand here as a serious candidate for President of the United States.
કેમ છો? મારું નામ અમિત જાની છે અને હું જો બાઇડન માટે નેશનલ AAPI ડાયરેક્ટર છું. મારું ગુજરાતી થોડું થોતરું છે, પણ હું ટ્રાય કરીશ આજે રાતે બોલવામાં ગુજરાતીમાં. પણ થેન્ક યુ, તમે ભેગા થયા છે, બહુ આનંદ થયું છે. આપણે વિડીયો હમણાં જોયું કમલા હેરિસનું, એનું મમ્મીનું અને એના ગ્રેન્ડપેરેન્ટ્સનું. એવું જ મારી સ્ટોરી છે. હું અહીંયા જર્સી સિટી, ન્યૂ જર્સીમાં રેઝ થયો છું. હું રાજકોટમાં બોર્ન થયો હતો, પણ અહીંયા હું 1 વર્ષનો હતો ત્યારે અહીંયા આવ્યો જર્સી સિટીમાં. ને હું જ્યાં અહીંયા તમારું જોઉં સેક્સસનું ગામ ને કુટુંબ બધું અહીંયા, મને અહીંયા જેવું જ લાગે છે. જર્સી સિટીનું, ન્યૂ જર્સીનું, એડિસનનું. એટલે હું બહુ પ્રાઉડ છું આજે જોઈને બધા ભેગા થયા છે ને આપણી ગુજરાતી કમ્યુનિટી. પાછું પેલું આપણે કમલા હેરિસનું વિડીયોમાં એનું મમ્મીનું બતાવતા હતા. Similarly, મારા માટે મારા પપ્પા બહુ પોલિટિક્સમાં ઇન્વોલ્વ હતા અને ઇન્ડિયન તમારા જેમ બહુ બધા જેમ ઇન્ડિયામાં પોલિટિક્સમાં હતા. ને અહીંયા આવ્યા ત્યારે, ન્યૂ જર્સીમાં આવ્યા ત્યારે ઇન્ડિયન અને ગુજરાતી કમ્યુનિટી માટે બહુ સેવા કરતા હતા. જે નવા ઇમિગ્રન્ટ્સ હોય એમને જોબ્સ હેલ્પ કરે અપાવવામાં. અમારા જોડે ભેગા રહેતા હતા અમારા અપાર્ટમેન્ટમાં 2, 3, 4, 1 વર્ષ માટે જે ઇન્ડિયાથી આવે એ લોકો. એટલે મને જે પૂછે તું પોલિટિક્સમાં કેમ ઇન્વોલ્વ થયો છું, હું એ જ કહું કેમ કે સેવા માટે. ને હું ગ્રોઈંગ અપ કરતો હતો ત્યારે હું વિચારતો હતો મારે શું બનવું છે. પહેલા હું 5 વર્ષનો હતો ત્યારે હું વિચારતો હતો ફાયર ફાઈટર બનવાનું, કેમ કે હું 10 લોકો 30 લોકોને એવરી યર સેવ કરી શકું. પછી થોડોક ઓલ્ડર થયો ત્યારે તમે તમારા છોકરાને કહેતા હશો ડૉક્ટર બન એમ. એવું મારે ડૉક્ટર બનવું હતું, કાર્ડિયોલોજિસ્ટ બનવું હતું, કેમ કે મને એવું લાગ્યું હું 100 લોકો 200 લોકો 300 લોકોને હેલ્પ કરી શકું, લાઈફ સેવ કરી શકું. પછી થોડી વાર પછી મેં વિચાર્યું ને મારા મારા પપ્પાજી કામ કરતા હતા કુટુંબમાં અને સેવા કરતા હતા એ મેં જોયું ને મને એવું લાગ્યું પછી હું પોલિટિક્સમાં ઇન્વોલ્વ થયો તો પછી એ લો હોય કે લેજિસ્લેશન હોય કે કમ્યુનિટી બ્લોક ગ્રાન્ટ હોય એમાંથી હજારો લોકોને કે મિલિયન્સ લોકોને તમે હેલ્પ કરી શકો એટલે હું પોલિટિક્સમાં ઇન્વોલ્વ થયો અને growing up I think વિચારી ન કરી શકું જે મારા મા બાપ મારા મમ્મી રાજકોટમાંથી આવે પપ્પા મહેસાણામાંથી આવે તેમના સન નેક્સ્ટ પ્રેસિડેન્ટ માટે કામ કરતા હોય એવું કોઈ મને એવું લાગ્યું નહોતું ગ્રોઈંગ અપ થતો ને ત્યારે પણ અત્યારે બહુ આનંદ આવે છે તમે બધા ભેગા થયા છો યુઝ્યુઅલી મારા પપ્પા ઇન્ડિયાનું જોતા હતા પણ પછી હું ઇન્વોલ્વ થયો એટલે પછી એ અહીંયા યુએસનું જોવા માંડ્યા પોલિટિક્સનું ઇન્વોલ્વ થવા માંડ્યા ફોન કોલ્સ કરતા હતા ફોન બેન્કિંગ એટલે એમ જ આમાં મને બહુ આનંદ છે તમે આજે ખાલી ઇન્ડિયન પોલિટિક્સમાં નથી ઇન્વોલ્વ થતા પણ હવે યુએસ પોલિટિક્સમાં ઇન્વોલ્વ થાવ છો ને તમારા છોકરાઓ માટે તમારા ફેમિલીઝ માટે બહુ સારું છે તમે ઇન્વોલ્વ થાઓ તમે ફોન બેન્કિંગ કરો તમે તમારા ફ્રેન્ડ્સ ફેમિલી બધાને કહો ઇન્વોલ્વ થવાનું એટલે આ બહુ ઇમ્પોર્ટન્ટ છે એટલે થેન્ક યુ તમે અહીંયા આવ્યા છો એ બહુ પ્રાઉડ લઈએ છીએ અમે બીજી વસ્તુ મારે એવું કહેવું છે આજે છે ને મીટિંગ એ વેબિનાર મોડમાં છે એટલે મીટિંગ મોડમાં નહીં હોય વેબિનાર મોડમાં છે એટલે આપણે તમને જોઈ નહીં શકીએ કે સાંભળી નહીં શકીએ પણ તમારે કંઈ ક્વેશ્ચન્સ હોય તો ક્વેશ્ચન આન્સર બોક્સમાં મૂકજો તમે નીચે સ્ક્રીનમાં જોશો ને આ ચેટ બોક્સ છે ને બીજું છે તમે ગેસ્ટ હો તો તમારા વિડીયો પાછું નહીં દેખાઈ શકે કોઈને એટલે તમે ચા પીવી હોય તો કમ્ફર્ટલી તમે જોઈજો આ પ્રોગ્રામ ને કંઈ ક્વેશ્ચન્સ હોય તો તમે ચેટમાં મૂકજો બીજી વસ્તુ છે આ પ્રોગ્રામ રેકોર્ડ થાય છે એટલે કોઈ તમારા ફેમિલી કે ફ્રેન્ડ્સ આજે જોઈન ન થઈ શક્યા હોય તો પછી આપણે શેર કરી શકશું હવે ફાઇનલી મારે સંજીવ જોશીપુરાને ઇન્વાઇટ કરવો છે સંજીવ છે ડાયરેક્ટર Indians for Biden National Council માટે સંજીવ
થેન્ક યુ અમિત મારું નામ છે સંજીવ જોશીપુરા અને હું રહું છું ફેરફેક્સ વર્જિનિયામાં વોશિંગ્ટન ડીસીની નજીક તમારા બધાનું ખૂબ ખૂબ સ્વાગત છે આજે આ ઇન્ડિયન્સ ફોર બાઇડન નેશનલ કાઉન્સિલ પ્રોગ્રામ વડીલોની વાતોમાં અને તમે તમારો કિંમતી સમય અમારી સાથે પસાર કરશો એના માટે અમે તમારા ખૂબ ખૂબ આભારી છીએ હું જન્મ્યો છું મુંબઈમાં અને ઉછર્યો છું પણ મુંબઈમાં but because I've never lived in Gujarat, my Gujarati is not that strong and I'm certainly much more comfortable in English. So with your permission, I guess I'm going to switch over to English. In my day job, I am the executive director of Indiaspora, which is a nonpartisan organization comprised of the most prominent Indian diaspora leaders all over the world. However, in this position, I'm certainly very partisan. And as Amit mentioned, I'm the national director of the Indians for Biden National Council. Essentially, Indians for Biden was formed as a subsidiary organization of South Asians for Biden, and we are an all-volunteer group. And the reason that we were formed is to dispel this notion that is gaining a little bit of currency among some quarters, although it has been vastly exaggerated, that the Biden-Harris ticket is not the best for US-India relations, or that the Biden-Harris ticket is not necessarily the best for the Indian-American agenda. We are working hard every day to dispel those myths. We are in definite need of a lot of volunteer assistance. Like I mentioned, we are an all-volunteer group. And for anyone that is interested in phone banking or social media, rapid response, WhatsApp texting, voter registration, get out the vote, all of those things, please feel free to contact us. We would love that. The email address is indiansforbiden@gmail.com. Again, Indians, plural, for Biden @gmail.com. With that, I'm going to introduce the moderator for this evening, Dr. Hina Pandya. She is a practicing physician and a medical group administrator and a community activist. She is very active in Moms Demand Action for Gun Sense in America and in several physician advocacy groups. So with that, Hina, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Sanjeev. Thank you very much. And thank you to Amit and Sanjeev, for all of the wonderful work that you're doing. Kem cho, good evening, friends. Ajna Vadilo ni Vato na prasange ame apnu swagat કરીએ છીએ અને આ વાર્તાલાપમાં ભાગ લેવા માટે આપનો આભાર માનીએ છીએ. I'm so honored to be here with you all tonight. This is a challenging time for us, for our country, and for our communities. Like so many of you, my family came to the US looking for opportunity, prosperity, and stability. Over the past few years, and especially in the last 6 months, it feels like our American dream is falling apart. As Gujaratis, we're known all over the world for our enterprising spirit, for our strong family values, and for our deep love of community. We all know the famous words of the poet Adil, who wrote, "Jyan jyan vase ek Gujarati, tyan tyan sadakar Gujarat." It means wherever even one Gujarati lives, forever is Gujarat. From Edison, New Jersey to Artesia, California, Gujaratis have worked hard to build communities across the United States. And right here in Texas, you'll find us in every part of the state. We're the doctors and the nurses who are saving lives and educating the public about COVID-19. We're the small business owners whose restaurants, motels, gas stations, and convenience stores fuel the economy and create jobs. We're the engineers of technology and the designers of the latest fashions. We're students who have become teachers. We're actors and activists. But above all, we're Americans, and this is our home. Lately, it doesn't always feel like that, though. We've seen terrible acts of division and hate pointed towards us, and we've been reminded over and over again that if we don't do something now, we could live here forever as foreigners in our own country. Last month, Desi families in North Texas received a disturbing and frightening letter in the mail. The letter told them to return back to their country. Well, you know what? This is our country. So we brought everyone here together tonight because our nation is in crisis. And just like we've done for centuries before, Gujaratis always come together to solve problems and fight for a better future. We fight not only for our own self-interests, but also for the greater good. And in this fight, we're guided by the wisdom of our respected and trusted elders. Tonight, we have the privilege to be joined by 3 couples who have a long history of leadership and community service in Texas. I'm so honored to moderate this conversation tonight with Ramesh and Kokilaben Shah of Houston, Ashok and Praveena Danda of Katy, and Vijay and Vinoo Mehta of Temple. Uncles and aunties, I want to thank you so much for being here with us tonight. To the audience, I want to remind you that if you have any questions for the panel, you can share your questions by clicking on the Q&A button at the bottom of your Zoom screen, and we'll look forward to addressing your questions later in the program. So I'm going to start by asking our panelists a few questions that have been on my mind lately, and I'm guessing these questions have been on your minds as well. So let's start with Ramesh Uncle and Kokilaben Aunty, who, by the way, I've known for my whole life. Kokilaben Aunty and Ramesh Uncle are well known to many of us in the Houston area for their community leadership and volunteerism. Ramesh Uncle, you were the founder of Gujarati Samaj of Houston. As a financial advisor and community leader, people have always come to you for personal advice. A lot of people are saying that we should support President Trump because he's a good friend to India. But you disagree. Can you tell us why?
Before I start, let me thank Amit Jani, Karim Farista, David, and Sanjeev Joshipura for organizing this event for us so that we can talk to our friends and families and community people. I think you are referring to Howdy Modi program because Trump came to Howdy Modi program. It was a community event. અમે ટ્રમ્પને બોલાવ્યા નહોતા, પણ પ્રેસિડેન્ટ તરીકે એમને થયું કે મારે આવવું છે, 50,000 લોકો આવવાના હતા અને ફોટો ઓપ મળે. ઠીક છે, પણ જો તમે જુઓ તો ઇન્ડિયન ગવર્મેન્ટ will be happy to invite or work with any president in India, in US. તમે જો યાદ કરો તો ઓબામા 2 વખત ઇન્ડિયા ગયા હતા અને બીજી વખત તો નેશનના ગેસ્ટ તરીકે ઇન્વિટેશન હતું 26 જાન્યુઆરી માટે. એટલે અને એમનો રિલેશનશિપ ઓલ્સો બી સરસ હતી. આપણે એની સામે જોઈએ તો ટ્રમ્પની એવી કોઈ ફ્રેન્ડશિપ નથી. આજ સુધી ઇન્ડિયા માટે એક પણ ટ્રેડ ડીલ સાઇન નથી. વાતો તો ઘણી કરે. બીજી બાજુ જુઓ તો ઓબામાના અને બાઇડનના એડમિનિસ્ટ્રેશનમાં એ લોકોએ ડિફેન્સ ટ્રીટી સાઇન કરી, ટેકનોલોજી આપી. બાઇડન જ્યારે સેનેટર હતો ત્યારે સિવિલ ન્યુક્લિયર ડીલ માટે આપણને પ્રોત્સાહિત કર્યા અને કામ આગળ વધાવ્યું. બીજું જુઓ તો બાઇડન ઓબામાના એડમિનિસ્ટ્રેશનમાં મેક્સિમમ ઇન્ડિયન અમેરિકન ભાગ લીધો છે, સલાહકારો હતા. બીજી બાજુ જુઓ તો બાઇડન ઇઝ અ લીડર, હી હેઝ અ કેરેક્ટર, ફેમિલી મેન, his trust in the faith, and on top of that he has been serving his community in Delaware to Washington and now to the whole nation. એક વસ્તુ યાદ કરવા જેવી છે, હમણાં તમે જોયું કમલા હેરિસના ફાધર, ગ્રાન્ડફાધર was a freedom fighter. એ જ ગુણ મધરમાં આવ્યા અને એ જ ગુણ એનામાં આવ્યા છે. કેટલું બધું અભિમાન હોય કે આવી એક સ્ત્રી, આવી એક છોકરી આગળ જઈ અને આપણું સંસ્કૃતિનું નામ આગળ કરશે. One last thing about immigration. આપણને આ દેશમાં આવવા માટે જે ઓપોર્ચ્યુનિટી મળી એના માટે જવાબદાર કોણ હતું? ડેમોક્રેટિક પ્રેસિડેન્ટ લિન્ડન બી જોન્સન 1964 માં બિલ પાસ કર્યું તો આપણા લાખો લોકો અહીંયા આવી શક્યા અને પોતાના પરિવારને બી લાવી શક્યા. મિત્રો, આ એક એવો પ્રસંગ છે જ્યારે આપણે પ્રાઉડ થઈને દેશ માટે સારું શું છે, મારી કમ્યુનિટી માટે સારું શું છે એ વિચાર કરીને આગળ વધીશું.
Thank you, Uncle. Thank you so much. You mentioned character. Kokila auntie, you and your family were at the Howdy Modi event in Houston. There were 50,000 people from our communities there. President Trump addressed our communities at that event. What do you think of the job that he's doing?
આપણને બધાને ખબર છે કે આ કોમ્યુનિટી પ્રોગ્રામ હતો, આપણે ટ્રમ્પને ઇન્વાઇટ નહોતા કર્યા, પણ એમણે સામેથી કહ્યું કે મારે આવવું છે. તો એ પ્રેસિડેન્ટ આપણે ના કહી શકીએ, પણ પ્રેસિડેન્ટ ટ્રમ્પને આપણી કોમ્યુનિટી ઉપર માટે ઇન્ટરેસ્ટ હતો, એને ફોટો અને એના માટે આવવાના હતા. એટલે એમને બીજો કોઈ ઇન્ટરેસ્ટ આપણામાં નહોતો. તમને કહું કે આપણે 3 વસ્તુ કહેવાની છે કે આ કોવિડ એમ કે જો આવ્યું તો ટ્રમ્પને ખબર હતી કે આટલું ડેન્જરસ છે, છતાં એણે એમ કે એના પગલાં નહીં લીધા. અને અત્યારે હું જોઉં કે મારા ગ્રાન્ડસન 5 વર્ષનો છે, એ કોમ્યુનિટી સ્કૂલમાં જવાની જગ્યાએ અત્યારે એને કોમ્પ્યુટરની સામે બેસીને એમ કે શીખવું પડે. તો એ જેવી છે કે એને રમતા કરતા શીખવાડે, પણ એની જગ્યાએ એમ કે એને કોવિડને લીધે એને ત્યાં ઘરમાં બેસી રહેવું પડે છે. તો એમ કે કોવિડને ખબર છે, આજે ટીવીમાં ન્યૂઝમાં હતું કે ટ્રમ્પને ખબર છે કોવિડ કેટલું ડેન્જરસ છે, છતાં એને એના ઉપર પગલાં નહીં લીધા. જે પોતે જ ના લે તો એ બીજાને શું કહી શકવાના હતા. ત્રીજું, ટ્રમ્પ એ જે પ્રેસ કોન્ફરન્સ, જ્યારે હું જોઉં કે પ્રેસ કોન્ફરન્સ હોય ત્યારે એમ કે કોઈ લેડીઝ હાથ ઊંચો કરે તો એને શટઅપ કરીને બેસાડી દે. તો એમ કે એ આપણા દેશમાં છોકરીઓ અને બહેનોને આગળ લાવવા પ્રયત્ન કરે છે કે એને પાછી હટાવવા પ્રયત્ન કરે છે. તો આપણે એવા એના માટે મને એટલો બધો ગુસ્સો આવે કે આવા પ્રેસિડેન્ટ આપણા દેશની છોકરીઓને આગળ લાવવા કરતા એને પાછળ ધકેલે છે.
Thank you, Auntie. Very well said. As a woman and a mother of 2 daughters, just like you, I can understand your feelings. Okay, next we have Ashok and Praveena Danda, who've lived in Katy, Texas for more than 40 years. They're not Gujarati by birth, but they are Gujarati by choice, and now by marriage. Their daughter Divya married a nice Gujarati boy, and I also heard some great news that Divya and her husband Jinesh recently gave uncle and auntie a brand new grandson named Arjun. Congratulations, auntie and uncle. I'm sure you're really enjoying the little bundle of joy. So let me start with the proud Dadima first. Praveena auntie, you're a successful accountant and a small business manager. In your view, how has the Trump presidency impacted our community and our businesses?
Congratulations on our grandson. We are doing okay, but overall the situation is pretty bad. Some people mistakenly think that Trump has been good for the business community, but the truth is he has mishandled COVID so badly, and the other Republican leaders failed to do what was, safe to open our businesses. So this is costing our communities very dearly, especially in the retail industry and the hospitality industry. And the establishments which they closed in response to temporarily closed their doors in response to the COVID, they may not be able to more than half of them may not be able to reopen. And that is not just a temporary closing, but that is a mass extinction, actually. And if you look at other countries, how they responded to the COVID and how they safely opened better and faster, you can see Trump has been a total failure.
Auntie, thank you for your thoughts. Really appreciate that. Ashok uncle, like I mentioned earlier, there's a lot of concern about hate and bigotry in our country right now. But you've always looked at America through a long lens, going back to when you arrived here in 1974. Do you think the country has fundamentally shifted? Does the rhetoric of President Trump represent the country that you love and chose for your?
I came in 1974. Truly, President Trump doesn't represent the best of America. When I came, I didn't know anyone. I landed in a small airport near Corpus Christi, and I had to go a little farther. But in the evening, the airport was getting closed, and I was obviously despair. And there's an American family who saw my despair. I did not know where to go or how to reach. They looked at me and they said, "We will take you to our home," on that night. And they did. They fed me, they made me sleep, and next day they dropped me at the students where the other Indian students are there. That's what the best of America that I received when I came to this country. But President Trump doesn't represent the best of America. If we select someone or if we elect someone like that, we are at the crisp of losing that best of America that I noticed when I came to this country.
Well, that's what we've always been taught. Everyone in the community takes care of each other, just like you experienced when you first came here. Finally, I'd like to welcome the doctors Mehta, Vijay, and Vinoo. They're both retired physicians from Temple, Texas. Vinoo auntie, you practiced as a physician in the government system for more than 33 years, and your daughter, Ami, is an ICU nurse who takes care of COVID-19 patients in Round Rock. What are your thoughts on how President Trump has handled this public health crisis?
Thank you, Hina. Trump is an idiot. Please pardon my language. He totally mismanaged this COVID pandemic crisis. He knew ahead of time that this disaster is going to come to America, but he completely ignored it. And because of him, we lost more than 180,000 people in America. અમેરિકા જેવા સમૃદ્ધ દેશમાં મેડિકલ સપ્લાયની આટલી ક્રાઇસિસ થાય એ કોઈ રીતે સમજાતું નથી, પણ ઇટ હેપન ઇન ટ્રમ્પના લીડરશિપમાં. મારી ડોટર અમી હોસ્પિટલમાં કામ કરે છે કોવિડ પેશન્ટ સાથે. They were not provided any protective equipment. Many times they had to buy face masks, gloves, or gown. And when the gowns were not available, they had to wear garbage bag. And because of this, many healthcare technicians, medical staff, and nurses lost their life. That's all because of him. Re-electing this crazy man is like committing suicide. તમારો વેલ્યુબલ વોટ આ પાગલ માણસ ઉપર વેસ્ટ ન કરતા. Please be careful. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing that, Auntie. I'm sure it's been difficult to watch your daughter go through that. Vijay, uncle, you're a retired surgeon. And not only that, you're also a businessman who invests in properties and motels. A lot of us know you from the Desi convention circuit, where you counsel young people on how to cope with life in two different cultures. It's pretty unexpected to see you here on a call about presidential politics. Can you tell us why you're speaking out today?
Thank you, Hina. I think the question is very relevant. In my 73 years of my life, I have not participated actively in political process. The maximum I would do is I'll go to the election booth, and depending on Republican, Democrat, or Independent, whichever I liked, I would vote for him. And that was my total involvement. But back on November 8, 2016, that Guzari Raat Thi Je, I would never forget that, because we started out having ready for a party and celebration. And somewhere along the time, we realized that we were going deep in the ditch. And that was very like a big severe gut punch to me. Now, but this crisis was our own making, because if we had 2 to 3 more votes per every precinct in the battleground state, we would not have this tragic tragedy for 4 years. So it reminds me right now the time is different. And in times of crisis in India, we used to say, "Khabar chhe etli ke matni hakal padi chhe." Means in the time of crisis, don't pontificate too much. All you need to know is that your nation needs you. And ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you, our nation needs us. So please, I can applaud all of you for attending this session. But what we need to do is we need to get 2 to 250 and 250 times 250 to send the message to everybody that this is a very important election. Vote as early as possible and vote for the right candidate, which happens to be Joe Biden and Kamala Harris.
Thank you, Uncle. So now we've spent a lot of time talking about Trump, but I actually want to move on and discuss the alternative now. So for all the panelists, I've heard a lot of people say that they're having trouble getting excited about Joe Biden. What do you think? What do you think about that statement? And can you tell us why you're supporting Joe Biden? We'll start with the Dandas this time. Ashok, uncle?
Yes. For me, Joe Biden, Kamala Harris represent the decency. They project the decency and the respect to the rule of law. And these are basic things for the democracy. If you don't have the respect for the rule of the law, there is no democracy. The way he insults people, I can't even stand that. So they project the decency and the respect to the rule of law, in my opinion.
When I think about Joe Biden and Kamala Harris ticket, I think a lot about Kamala Harris's mother, Shamala Gopalan, who was very courageous in coming to America as a young woman, about 60 years back almost. And then she instilled in her daughter the spirit that has made Kamala the trailblazing prosecutor in California and the first woman of color to represent California in the Senate. And Kamala Harris has many firsts in her life. And also her story is very inspiring and very historic. That's what I think the Biden ticket would be very interesting ticket.
Thank you. That's great. Dr. Mehta, and by that I mean Vinoo auntie. I've heard people say that Joe Biden is just too old to be president, that sometimes it sounds like he has memory problems or he's forgetting what he's saying. I know you've spent most of your career practicing geriatric psychiatry, so I think you know quite a bit about memory problems in older folks. Do you think that what people are saying about Joe Biden is true?
That is completely false. कोई पागल है तो ये ट्रम्प है. Every day his ideas are changing. Every day his action is changing. He's not in touch with reality. કાલે શું કરશે એ કોઈ જાણતું નથી. Joe Biden is a very competent and intelligent person. He overcome so many tragedies in his life. In spite of his problems in his life, he stood strong and fought for our country and for us. We have to learn a lot of things from Joe Biden, how to handle the crisis and tragedy in our life and for our country. I have tremendous respect for Joe Biden. We need to elect the person like Joe Biden who will handle this crisis better. He will take us out of this crisis and we will be better off with him. Thank you.
Vijay uncle, what are your thoughts?
Well, when it comes to the leadership, I believe what Gita says, yada yada hi dharmasya glanirvavati America. So whenever the America is in trouble, our God is going to look for us and send somebody. Now he might be very busy, so he's going to send somebody to rescue us. And I think right now, the Biden-Harris ticket seems to me the manifestation of that promise that was made to us. And those are the ones that will do the tamasoma jyotirgamaya. From this darkest hours of our nation, these two people are going to lead us to the brightness. So most important thing about Joe Biden is that he served under the first Black president who was much junior to him, but it was not the issue to him. The issue was Barack Obama is the great man, and if I can help the country, I would do anything. And then when he had to make the most critical choice of who to appoint as the nominee as the vice president, look who he picked. Kamala Harris, the first African-American descent, first Indian descent, and she was not picked because of what her genetic makeup was. She was picked because in spite of being that starting point, she actually made it to the Senate, to the Attorney General, and now to the Vice President. So she is a very able leader. So I'm so thrilled that Kamala Harris is one of our own. Name Kamala resonates with me more than a lot of other one would be. And she would be our first Indian American female vice presidential candidate. And what I heard today is also that her grandfather was marching for the freedom in India. And now Kamala has the difficult job of giving freedom to American population from the bigotry, from the racism, and from all the xenophobic ideas that we have grown like weeds over the last 4 years. So to tell you the thing, I think I'm supporting Joe Biden and Harris because there is no close match in the choice.
Thank you, Vijay uncle. I'm going to turn back to the Shahs now. Ramesh uncle, Koki auntie, why do you support Joe Biden and Kamala Harris?
બધાએ બહુ સરસ વાત કરી, પણ આપણે વિચાર કરીએ તો ફેમિલીમાં આપણને કોઈ પણ લીડર જોઈતો હોય એનું કેરેક્ટર, ઓનેસ્ટી, એની ટ્રુથફુલનેસ અને સાથે સાથે સર્વિસ કરવાની ભાવના. જો બાઇડન અને કમલામાં આ બંને વસ્તુઓ છે. જો બાઇડન ઓબામા એડમિનિસ્ટ્રેશનમાં જ્યારે હતા ત્યારે 2008માં હું ફાઇનાન્શિયલ એડવાઇઝર હતો અને ફાઇનાન્શિયલ ક્રાઇસિસ આવેલી. એ વખતે એમણે જે પગલાં લીધા અને હી વોઝ ઇન ચાર્જ જો બાઇડન, એનાથી દેશ ડિફિકલ્ટ સિચ્યુએશન પાછો આવ્યો. 10% અનએમ્પ્લોયમેન્ટમાંથી 4.1% અનએમ્પ્લોયમેન્ટ આવ્યું. ટ્રમ્પ બધી ક્રેડિટ ભરેલે, પણ કામ તો બધું એમણે કરેલું હતું. બીજી એક વસ્તુ જાણવા જેવી છે કે બાઇડને આપણો સિવિલ ન્યુક્લિયર ડીલ થઈ એ મેળવવા માટે સૌથી વધારે મહેનત કરી હતી ઇન્ડિયાને મળે એટલા માટે. આજે પણ ઇન્ડિયા સિક્યોરિટી કાઉન્સિલમાં આવે એના માટે એની ભાવના છે. ઇન્ડિયાને ગ્લોબલ વોર્મિંગ અને ક્લાઇમેટ ચેન્જ માટે એ સપોર્ટ કરશે. જે ઇન્ડિયન સરકારે એમાં આગલું પગલું લીધું છે અને બહુ આગળ પડતા ભાગ લેવાના છે. ત્રીજું, બાઇડન હંમેશા ડેમોક્રેટિક કન્ટ્રી માટે આગળ રહેશે. એની સામે બીજી બીક લાગે છે અહીંયા. આપણે જો અને કે ને અંધેરી નગરીને ગંડુ રાજા, આ ગંડુ રાજાને અથવા મોહમ્મદ તગલક જો રહેશે તો આ દેશ ક્યાં જશે? આપણી સ્વતંત્રતા, આપણું કોન્સ્ટિટ્યુશન આપણી પાસે નહીં હોય તો આપણને કોણ સંભાળશે? અને આપણે માઇનોરિટીમાં છીએ, સમજવાનું છે. આપણે કંઈ ઇન્ડિયામાં મેજોરિટીમાં નથી. અને ત્રીજી વાત, શા માટે ચિંતા કરીએ આર્ટિકલ 370 અને CAA ની? ઇન્ડિયા 50 વર્ષ પહેલાનું ઇન્ડિયા નથી. ઇન્ડિયા હવે સ્ટ્રોંગ છે, પોતાની જાતે એની સંભાળ લેશે અને એનો ઇન્ટરનલ મેટર છે. વાય ડુ વી વરી? આપણે તો અહીંયા રહીને આપણી કમ્યુનિટી માટે શું કરવાનું છે વિચારવાનું છે. કમલા હેરિસ માટે વિજયભાઈ સરસ કહ્યું, પણ બીજી એક વસ્તુ કહું. જેના દાદા એ ફ્રીડમ ફાઇટર હોય, જેની માએ ભાગ લીધો હોય સિવિલ રાઇટ્સમાં, અને એની દીકરી, મને તો ઝાંસીની રાણી યાદ આવે છે, એ પણ એવું કંઈક કરશે જેથી આ દેશને આગળ લઈ જશે.
That's very nice. Koki auntie?
બાઇડન એ સેનેટર હતા પહેલા, પછી એમણે 8 વર્ષ સુધી ઓબામા સાથે વાઇસ પ્રેસિડેન્ટ રહ્યા, અને એમનો દીકરો જેને પોતે બી મિલિટરીમાં કામ કર્યું હતું, એમની વાઇફ એ ટીચર છે, અને એક સારું સુંદર ફેમિલી લાઈફ અને દેશની સેવા માટે જિંદગીના ઘણા વર્ષો બાઇડને દેશ માટે સેવા માટે આપ્યા છે, હજુ કરશે જ. ને આપણે કમલા હેરિસની મધર 19 યર્સની અહીંયા હતી ને અહીંયા આગળ આવી અને પોતે આગળ ભણવા માટે આવી હતી. એને બંને દીકરીઓ થઈ. એ દીકરીઓને એણે નાની દીકરીઓને લઈને એ સિવિલ રાઇટ મુવમેન્ટમાં જોઈન થઈ, અને એણે દીકરીઓને સંસ્કાર એવા, માં તમને આપણને બધાને જ ખબર છે કે માં એ સૌથી પહેલી ટીચર છે, તો એની માએ એને સંસ્કાર એવા આપ્યા કે જે દેશને માટે કંઈક કરી જાય, જેને કરવું છે દેશને માટે. તો એને અહીંયા વાઇસ પ્રેસિડેન્ટ તરીકે બાઇડન એને ચૂઝ કરી, ને આપણે બધા પ્રાર્થના કરીએ કે બાઇડન અને કમલા આપણે ચૂંટાઈ આવે અને આપણા દેશ માટે ઘણું કામ કરી જાય, અને આપણે ભવિષ્યના બાળકો માટે બી કંઈક કરે, તે જ પ્રાર્થના.
Great. Very good. Thank you, Auntie and Uncle. So we're here tonight because you all called this urgent community meeting so you could speak directly to fellow members of the Gujarati community. We have people in this Zoom meeting from all over Texas and from around the country. What is it that you so urgently want them to know? We'll start with Vijay Uncle and Vinoo Auntie.
Thank you, Hina. We are living in the times of quarantine, which means that all these 250 people I would want to visit with you. But thanks to our president, 6 months into the crisis, I do not feel safe enough to go out and come to your house, give my corona or take your corona from you. So that is choice. That's one important issue. The other one is we are living in the age of disinformation. So anybody can make a little WhatsApp message and Kamala Harris is Muslim or she is Pakistani or she was born of Christian parents or whatever. And suddenly we forward it to 2,000 people and then it becomes a news. And then the third thing is the president of the United States is the biggest manufacturer of the facts. He can manufacture his facts as many times as he wants to. And sometimes in one press conference, he has the fact two opposite ways. And we have got so used to it, nobody questions him. So we need to be sure as an Indian group or as the voters that we do not fall victim to this propaganda. Let me give you some examples. So I was watching why not to vote for Biden Harris. So the first thing I saw was that they are going to increase your taxes to X billion of dollars and this and that. The more I studied, I realized that if you look at the line 37 on your 1040, and if it is less than $400,000, which is a lot of money, your tax is not going up. Your tax might go down. Not only that, people who are going over 400,000, they are not paying that exorbitant amount. Yes, people who are multimillionaire or the corporation, they will have to do their part and they will have to give some tax. The other thing is they not only want to not increase your tax, they will want to give you tax break. So for my motel, if I wanted a solar roof, there might be a tax credit. For your gas station, if you want to put an electric charger, which is coming in fashion, there will be a tax credit. So this whole information, if I did not pay attention to the detail, I could go out and say, oh my God, I don't want to vote for Biden because I love my money. We all Gujarati love our money. So we love our money more than anything else. So right away, that's a big selling point that don't vote for Biden. So please, ladies and gentlemen, use your head, find the facts, and let us know if you have any questions. The other big one I saw, and just Trump called me a few minutes ago, and he said that if you vote for Biden Harris, there'll be anarchy and there'll be riots in the street. My dear president, anarchy is right now, and you have been the president of the United States for the last 4 years. So I don't know what you're saying, there is anarchy. You're calling the army and you're calling all kinds of things. So we don't want to get rid of police. But it is important that there are few police who are abusing the system. And let me remind you, our one grandpa in Alabama, he went for a walk on his neighborhood. He didn't go to the other neighborhood, just his neighborhood. And some person felt very uncomfortable looking at this man who was not of the right color or right height. So they called the police, which is understandable. Police came and they punched that man so bad that he was paralyzed. Now think about it. It could be you, it could be me, it could be my family or my friend. And we have to put a stop to that. So that is not bad. We have to have police behaving in a certain way. If there was a call for unknown person coming, there is X degree of violence you can do. I mean, what was he going to do? Kill the policeman who was young? There was no reason to just give him a punch. So what I'm thinking is, what do we do when the fake news comes? And I think our wisdom back home was that it is not what one person is saying, but look behind who is saying that. So if I have a history of just coming and giving you the big promise and making bombastic claim and all that, you should just discount it. On the other hand, if I have a history of 20 years, 30 years of service, 30 years of answering the phone call, coming to your issue, then even if I may not say the thing the right way you want to hear, you need to listen to me. Biden, on one side, he is a seasoned person. For 40 years, he served his state, his district. He traveled in the Amtrak. He is in touch with the normal daily people. And he has served us, and then he has served 8 years with the President Barack Obama. And he has not lost the touch of normal people. Now look at the competition, or the so-called competition. The Trump was born with the golden foot in his mouth. All he has done, whatever he has accumulated is on the back of other people and scamming the surrounding people, starting a Trump University, which is worth nothing, bankrupting a lot of banks in the process, making bombastic claim, and he has the dubious distinction of having the maximum number of people in his administration who has been indicted or served time. Now, when these two people are talking, you really need to figure out that Biden has a lot more credibility. So this is the way it is. The credibility times the statement equals what? So if your credibility is 0, you multiply it times infinity, answer is 0. So I would tell you that, listen guys, don't fall for Muslim and Kamala Harris, don't fall for Modi and this, don't fall for tax rate or defunding the police. The most anarchist time on my 42 years in this country is currently going on, and the president has been Donald Trump. Now let me go to the last thing. In 1980, my favorite Republican president, Ronald Reagan, he said something very important, that when you go to the voting booth, ask yourself a simple question. Am I better off today than 4 years ago? Is my country safer today than 4 years ago? Is the America respected in the world more today than 4 years ago? And ladies and gentlemen, I don't have to give you the long lecture on that. The answer is unequivocal no. We are the joke of the world. We are 6% of the world population, 25% of the victims who died from corona. and the racism is rampant. Islamophobia is going on. People may look at me and think I'm Muslim, even though I'm not, and suddenly they react differently to me. So I think I am not better off today, and I think you need to agree with me that we are not better off than 4 years ago.
Thank you. Vinoo auntie?
I have a positive response to vote this year. Someday my granddaughter will come and she will ask me a question. Mimi, where were you when first Indian lady was elected as the vice president? I should be able to look in her eyes and tell her that I tried everything I could to make this historic event happen. If Kamala Harris becomes the vice president, then it opens the door for my kids, your kids, and grandkids. And one day our dream will come true when our kids or grandkids becomes a president. That's what I'm looking for.
That's great. Definitely something to look forward to. I'm going to turn to Ramesh uncle and Kokilanti now. Uncle and auntie, what do you want the people listening tonight to take away from our conversation?
Today, બધા એક વસ્તુ ધ્યાનમાં રાખવાની છે, આપણે અહીં આવ્યા શા માટે? ઓપોર્ચ્યુનિટી, ફ્રીડમ અને ઇક્વાલિટી હતી. એ જો આપણી પાસે હશે તો આપણને આનંદ થશે, હિંમત આવશે અને આગળ વધીશું. આપણે કરપ્શનથી બહુ કંટાળેલા હતા. અહીંયા એમાંથી ફ્રીડમ હતી. લો એન્ડ ઓર્ડર સારા છે. પરંતુ જો તમારો નાયક અથવા તો પ્રેસિડેન્ટ જો બધું જ કરાવતો હોય, કેરેક્ટર ના હોય, કરપ્શન કરાવતો હોય, જે સાચું બોલે એને કાઢી મૂકતો હોય. આજે પેલો એમના હોમલેન્ડ સિક્યોરિટીમાંથી પેલા ભાઈ કહે છે કે મને ખોટું કહેવા માટે કહેવામાં આવતું હતું કે જે ઇન્ટેલિજન્ટ ઇન્ફોર્મેશન છે એને બદલીને ખોટી કરો, એમ ના બતાવાય. અરે બાપરે, આ દેશમાં રહીને આપણને જો હક નહીં હોય, આપણા છોકરાઓને તો લાભ નહીં મળે, તો આપણે ક્યાં જઈશું? અને સૌથી સારું કે કમલા હેરિસ અને બાઇડનમાં જે નિડરતા છે, ગભરાતા નથી, કંઈક સારું કરવું હોય એના માટે હિંમતથી આગળ જશે. અને મને તો મોટામાં મોટો રસ મારી કમ્યુનિટીમાં છે. આજ સુધી મને મારા પર્સનલ જીવનની એટલી ચિંતા નથી જેટલી મારી કમ્યુનિટીની ચિંતા છે. અને આપણી કમ્યુનિટી સ્ટ્રોંગ રહે, આગળ જાય, એમને કોઈ હેરાન ના કરે. જેમ વિજયભાઈએ કહ્યું કે તમને રસ્તામાં તમે બ્રાઉન સ્કિન છો, ગમે તે હેરાન કરી શકે. અને અમે જ્યારે અહીંયા 70માં આવ્યા ત્યારે વી આર સફર્ડ. પોલીસ હોય કે કોઈ ધોળિયાના એરિયામાં હોય તો આપણે હેરાન થવું પડે. પણ ટ્રમ્પ જેવો માણસ જ્યારે વ્હાઇટ સુપ્રેમસિસ્ટ લોકોને સપોર્ટ કરતો હોય ત્યારે આપણે ક્યાં બચીશું? આપણને કોઈ નહીં બચાવે. તમારા ગમે તેટલા પૈસા હશે, તમારી ગમે તેટલા તમે ડોક્ટર, એન્જિનિયર, ધંધાવાળા હશો, જેને ખ્યાલ હોય ઇમરજન્સીમાં શું થયું, એમને ખ્યાલ આવે કે આપણે ક્યાં કોઈ આપણને બચાવશે નહીં. યુગાન્ડામાં કોણ બચાવવા આવ્યું હતું? બધા ધંધાવાળા, બધાને ભાગી જવું પડ્યું. એટલે આપણે બધાને ખાસ વિનંતી છે, આપણી સેફટી માટે, આપણી જનરેશન આવે છે એમના કલ્યાણ માટે, એમને આગળ ધપાવવા માટે આપણે જરૂર આપણા મનથી, બુદ્ધિથી વિચાર કરીશું કે મારે વોટ કોને આપવો છે. જ્યારે વોટ આપવા જઈએ ત્યારે મનમાં થવું જોઈએ કે હું કોના માટે વોટ આપું છું? આ દેશના બચાવ માટે, મારા છોકરાઓને આગળ લઈ જવા માટે અને આપણી સેફટી માટે. તો બધાને ખાસ વિનંતી છે, બધા ગુજરાતી મિત્રોને, આટલા બધા લોકો ભેગા થયા છે, બધાને જ ખાસ વિનંતી, વોટ આપવા જજો. રજીસ્ટ્રેશન ના કરો તો કરાવી દેજો અને જરૂર બાઇડન અને કમલા હેરિસને વોટ આપજો. નમસ્તે.
Thank you, Ramesh uncle. Koki auntie?
બાઇડન અને કમલા હેરિસ એ બંને દેશ માટે કંઈક કરવા માટે એમ કે ઉભા છે. ને કમલા હેરિસ ઇઝ અ સેકન્ડ જનરેશન ઇન્ડિયન. એ આટલી આગળ આવીને જો દેશ માટે એમ કે કરે ને આપણા ભવિષ્યના છોકરાઓ બી આજે નહીં તો કાલે એમાંથી બી કોઈ પ્રેસિડન્ટ થશે ને એ છોકરાઓની જે એના માટે આપણે શું કમલા હેરિસ અને બાઇડન આવે તો એ આપણા ભવિષ્યના છોકરાઓને આગળ વધવાનો ચાન્સ મળશે. જ્યારે ટ્રમ્પ જૂઠો છે. એવરી ટાઈમ એને કંઈ બી કશું જ એને જેટલા પ્રોમિસ આપ્યા એમાં કાંઈ કર્યું નથી. અને અત્યારે તમે જુઓ તો જે દેશને સર્વિસ આપે છે, દેશને માટે મરવા તૈયાર થાય છે, એવા મિલિટરી માટે બી તે ગમે તેમ બોલે છે. તો એ શું કરી શકવાનો હતો આપણા દેશ આપણના લોકો માટે? એ બધું એને કઈ ખબર નથી કે હું શું કરી રહ્યો છું ને એને ધ્યાન નહીં આપી. એના લીધે તો આપણા કેટલા બધા આપણા ભાઈ બહેનો કોવિડને લીધે મૃત્યુ પામ્યા છે. તો એવા ટ્રમ્પને આપણે નથી વોટ આપો. આપણે કમલા હેરિસ અને બાઇડનને વોટ આપીશું ને બધાને વિનંતી કરું છું કે તમારો વોટ તમે બાઇડન અને કમલા હેરિસને આપો ને બીજા એક જણ 50 લોકોને એમને વોટ આપવા માટે તૈયાર કરે. થેન્ક યુ.
Thank you, Auntie. Lots of things to look forward to in the future. Finally, Ashok Uncle and Praveena Auntie, can you tell us why you feel a sense of urgency in this year's election?
You know, as I said, that I came in 1974 as a foreign student, and we established ourselves, found a job, and started establishing the families, and we have kids. At that time, most of the time, we were foreigners, you know, immigrants. Then we got the citizenship, and after that, we said, well, we are immigrants, foreigners, but our kids are not foreigners. They're born Americans. We used to be so proudly call them, you are an American, you can be of anything, right? My own daughter recently in Houston downtown was asked whether she has the papers or not to report to ICE. I said, I thought these were Americans, right? Now, immigrant communities are, you know, delegated to lowest form from the Mexicans, from the Muslims, from everyone, right? So our assumption that our kids are American with that one event that shattered my thinking, right? And now we have grandkids. And this is their land. It is our home now. Our kids are Americans. Our grandkids are Americans. They're not going anywhere. So we need to protect the rule of law, the decency, respect to the immigrant community in America at our home, right? So that way we need to elect a person who understands immigrant community, or even Ronald Reagan used to say, it's a country of immigrants. But this president never uttered even once. So we have to make every effort to elect a president, Joe Biden and Kamala Harris.
Thank you. Wise words. Praveena Auntie?
Our Indian values are not about the individual, and they are about community, and we prioritize community over person. This is what we believe in. And don't get into the politics of it. Don't get caught into it. And we will be voting this for our future generation and for the best of this country. That's what I will be voting for.
Thank you, Auntie. So now at this time, we do have a couple of questions from the audience. The first question, our first question is, Kamala Harris never claims her Indian heritage. Vijay Uncle, what would you say to that?
Okay. Well, again, I remember I told you who is speaking and what is the credibility times the accusation. So first of all, we just saw that here is the girl who talks about the grandpa, the mom, and the sister and all that. But really speaking, the way to look at it is that Kamala Harris qualifies as the vice president, even if she was German or Ethiopian or any other nationality or descent. Now, the fact that she happens to come from India is an icing on the cake. So as far as I'm concerned, her ability is the prime importance, and the fact that that able woman is coming from my country is the second most important. So I think that Kamala Harris has connected to the Indian root. Maybe she doesn't go to Garbas like you and I do. Maybe doesn't show up for every Diwali function, but she is from India and she has done it. But more important than that, this is the thing, that we have to claim her as our daughter. So when there is some Nobel Prize winner or 1600 SAT or valedictorian, all I've done my life is I reach out to them that I'm so proud you belong to Gujarati community or you belong to Indian community. So let's look at this way. We want to claim that as our daughter, and let's stick with her and let's appreciate her qualities and make it best.
Great, thank you. And you may have also seen she did do a video with Mindy Kaling about making dosa. So maybe we'll see more of that in the future. The next question, a few people have asked about Vice President Biden and Senator Harris's positions on Kashmir. Rameshbhai and Kokilaben, what would you like to say about that?
You know, Kashmir, Article 370 CAA, that is an internal matter of India. And India did not ask anybody, they handled themselves nicely. And that is not to worry. India can manage itself. But you think other way around, why India should be stronger? If we think of India, it is a democratic country, largest democracy, and also it will help America to maintain their democracy and stature in the world community. India joined climate change. India joined on the defense side. India joined on the human rights. And if you see that Kamala Harris, as her heritage, if you see the courage to become district attorney, courage to become attorney general, being a woman in that society is not easy. Then she became senator. What they will provide, something they know what is happening. This guy doesn't know what is happening in the world. He doesn't care to read. He doesn't care to see or listen to his advisors. Things whatever પેલું કે મગજમાં જે આવે બોલી કાઢવાનું. એનાથી આગળ દેશને બચાવવો હોય. અમેરિકા એક લીડર કન્ટ્રી છે આખા વર્લ્ડમાં. એને પાછું એસ્ટાબ્લિશ કરવો પડશે. અને એ કરવા માટે બાઇડન એની જે કેપેસિટી છે, એની જે એક્સપિરિયન્સ છે એ બહુ કામમાં આવશે. અને કમલા એ બધામાં મદદ કરશે એઝ એ એડવાઇઝર. આપણે તો જોયું હોય તો ટ્રમ્પના રાજમાં એના સિવાય કોઈ બોલતું જ નથી. જ્યારે અહીંયા ઓબામાના રાજમાં કે બાઇડનના રાજમાં બંને સરખો ભાગ લેશે, દેશને આગળ લઈ જશે. એટલા માટે જ બધાને વિનંતી છે, તમારા કોન્શિયસને પૂછજો અને મેક શ્યોર આપણે એવા માણસને છૂટીએ, એવી વ્યક્તિને આગળ લઈ આવીએ જે બધા માટે સારી હોય, આપણી કમ્યુનિટી પ્રોટેક્ટ થાય અને કમ્યુનિટી આગળ જવા માટે ઓપ્શન મળે.
Thank you very much, Uncle. So it's late. It's actually past my bedtime now, and I want to thank you all for staying with us during this compelling conversation. We're getting close to the end. We're going to end with one final question for our panelists. This is for all of you. You've all shared your stories with us, and we now understand why you're all getting engaged in this election. We want to thank you for your leadership and for your service to our communities. You've set a great example for all of us. Now we want to hear from each of you about what your hopes are for America. When you cast your ballots for Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, tell us, what will you be hoping for and who will you be thinking about? Rameshbhai and Kokilaben?
As you know, I'm a community person, regardless of who it is, where you come from, what religion, what background, it doesn't matter to me. And when I go to the voting booth, I'll be thinking of my community. Will my community be better off? Action I take. I have done it over and over, but in this particular case, this is so much emergency kind of time for us that my community should be protected, and they all will go ahead and consciously they will vote what is right for the community. In this case, Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. And I tell you, you would not have any regret. This is one thing I assure you. Time will tell, you can vote to your conscience, but you would not go wrong and you will be so happy that this will come back to us and say, thank you, God, I did what was right for me, for my community.
Sorry. આપણે હું 1972 હું મારી બંને દીકરીઓને લઈને આવી હતી. એના ભવિષ્ય માટે એને કઈ ઓપોર્ચ્યુનિટી મળે એ માટે એમ આપણે અહીંયા આગળ આવ્યા. તો આપણે નવા જનરેશનને આપણા નવા બાળકોને એમને ઓપોર્ચ્યુનિટી મળે અને આ દેશમાં એ લોકો બી કઈ આજનું બાળક એ કામનું પ્રેસિડેન્ટ થઈ શકે છે. તો એને સારી એમ કે તક મળે એ માટે હું કમલા હેરિસ અને જો બાઇડનને વોટ આપીશ અને બધાને વિનંતી કરું છું કે તમે બી એમને વોટ આપજો અને તમારા બીજા મિત્રોને બી એને વોટ આપવા માટે કહેજો.
Thank you. Yes, our community is very, very important. Ashok uncle and Praveena auntie.
I'll be thinking about my kids, my grandkids. They are here to stay. They are Americans. This is their country. We may know India, but they don't know. This is my grandkids. Recently, I have 1-year-old granddaughter and 2-month-old grandson. It is their country. I'm thinking about them, their future when I vote this time.
That is what I'm thinking also, Hina, about my grandkids and to the best of this country too.
Great. That family is very important too. Vinoo auntie?
I'll be thinking about my son Chirag and people similar to him. He was born with spina bifida and he is an immunocompromised condition right now. He's a wheelchair bound. We provide safer environment for him and take care of his all health problems. But this year, due to COVID, we have to take extra precaution. He's not able to step out of the house without any problems. So we need to elect a right person who understands this crisis, who listens to all the scientists and doctors and take proper action and provide us safer environment and take us out from this crisis. And that person will be Joe Biden and Kamala Harris.
Thank you, auntie. Vijay uncle?
I'm thinking about what am I hoping for and what am I thinking about. I'm hoping for healing the wounds. Let the people, whether they are minority, be it African American or Mexican American, or be it Muslim or a Hindu or a Sikh, let us all feel like everybody, there could be good and bad in everybody and not to judge by the looking at the skin color. I also hope for conquering the corona by evidence-based science. And I hope he does not release this MAGA vaccine to win the election 2 weeks before the election. I hope we rebuild the economy. We provide the quality healthcare, education, and decent job for everyone, not just the select few. And that's my hope. Now, as far as what I'm thinking about, as I cast my ballot, I'll be mindful that the result of this election is a long lasting. So, and I've spent all my life working with youth across this country, the one you see on the picture, and they lovingly call me the coolest Desi uncle. So I am thinking about all of these people, including mine, so that we create a community and a nation that we can be all happy and proud of. Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. And also I have a deep sense of gratitude toward the nation that gave me the opportunity and acceptance. So this is my karma bhumi. And when it needs me, I need to do everything with my tan, man, and dana. So my thoughts, my prayer, my money, all I want to do so that I can restore this nation.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Those photos were just beautiful. And what I heard is that we care a lot about community, family, health, and taking care of each other. So this really helps us understand why you're doing what you're doing. I want to thank you all for an incredibly thoughtful and powerful conversation. I know that I've learned a lot from your wisdom and experience, not just today, but my whole life. And I hope everyone else feels that they learned a lot today as well. We have only 55 days left until the election. Voting has already started in some parts of the country. And here in Texas, we'll be able to have our voices heard soon enough. So to help close our conversation, I want to welcome the guy who's going to help turn Texas blue with help from all of you. Let's please welcome Karim Farista. He's the Deputy Director of Coalitions and the leader of the Asian American Vote Program for the Biden-Harris campaign in Texas. Welcome, Karim.
Well, thank you so much, Dr. Pandya, Ashok uncle and Praveena auntie, Ramesh uncle and Kokila auntie, Vijay uncle and Vinoo auntie. We're so grateful for you and everything that you do. You know, आज मैं आपकी जब बातें सुन रहा था, मुझे मेरे खुद दादा और दादी और नाना याद आ रहे थे, जो अब गुजर गए कुछ 10 साल पहले. और मुझे आज याद आता है जब मैं आपकी बातें सुनता हूँ कि जो आप विजडम शेयर कर रहे हैं हमारे साथ, और आपने जो एक हिस्ट्री हम लोग को समझाई कि अपनी जो स्टोरी है अमेरिका में एक लंबी हिस्ट्री है. It's not about one election. It's about our journey, our American journey here in the United States. और अगर आज मेरे दादा और दादी और नाना जिंदा होते तो जरूर बोलते कि कि जो बाइडेन और कमला हैरिस अपनी कंट्री के लिए एक बहुत great president or vice president बनेंगे. So that's what I really want to share with everyone. And for everyone who's on this call, I am just so grateful. अपनी state में, Texas में 8,800,000 Asian Americans रहते हैं. 8 लाख. और वो 8 लाख में से 2,200,000 से भी ज़्यादा देसीज रहते हैं. यहाँ पर 235,000 Desi Americans call Texas home. तो अपन जब बोलते हैं कि we're going to turn Texas blue, या अपन जब बोलते हैं कि we're going to elect Joe Biden and Kamala Harris as our next president and vice president, what we're really saying is we need to reach out to everyone in our families. Apne dada or dadi, nana or nani, chacha or chachi, masa or masi, every single person in our family has to turn out and vote. So what I want to do in the last few minutes with you is share a few very critical dates. Or agar aapke paas ek pen or paper ho, I would really recommend that you write some of these dates down, because it's going to be very important for us to remember these dates going forward. So if we could share the slide presentation with these dates so you can also see them, that would be wonderful. तो जो सबसे important website है is mytexasvotes.com. आपको कोई भी questions होवे voting के बारे में तो please इस site को visit करना. The first date that I think it's really important for everyone to remember is voter registration. Ramesh uncle ने अपन को याद दिलाया कि October की 5th. October की 5th is the last day to register to vote in Texas. That doesn't mean we wait until October 5th. It means we start doing that work today. कि आज आपने ये panel को सुना, अगर आपको कोई questions of it, please go visit mytexasvotes.com. And before October 5th, please make sure that you're registered to vote or confirm your voter registration status. Second most important date, and the date that's going to change this country, not just for 2020, not for 2022, but for a generation to come. November ki 3 tarik. November 3rd is the date of the election. But we know that in order to prepare for the election, there's a lot of things that we can do. First, please go visit mytexasvotes.com and figure out what is the closest polling location to you. Wear a mask and make sure you go to the polls if you can. But my recommendation would be कि October की 13 तारीख से October 13th से you can start voting early. And you can figure out what dates and what times those polls are going to be open. Polls are generally open subah 7 se sham 7 tak. So it's very important that you figure out what polling location you want to go to and where and when you can cast your ballot. It's very important that aaj aap is call se jab aap likh le, so you have a plan to vote, that you are ready to vote and you are taking your family and your friends to go and vote for Joe Biden and for Kamala Harris. Now, another thing, especially for those of y'all who are in the state of Texas and for those of you who are calling from outside, there's another way in which you can vote, which is vote by mail. We know in this COVID season, it's really important to practice safety, to practice social distancing. And in Texas, there are 3 ways that make you eligible to vote by mail. If you are above the age of 65, if you're an elder in the community, right? If you have a disability, And third, if during the time of the election you will be traveling and will not be in your county of residence, in that case, you can request a ballot by mail. The last day to request your ballot by mail is October the 23rd. Please do not wait until the last day. If you request a ballot and it comes in, please do everything that you can to make sure that you are turning in your ballot on time with ample time to make it through the mail service. No Indian Standard Time this time. It's just absolutely critical that we get the ballot out on time. The next thing is, you might have some questions about how to register, when to vote. So let me just give you a quick thing that you can do right now. Pull out your mobile phones right now. I have mine right here. Go into the text section and type in the number 30330. I'm going to type it in here, 30330. And please type in the word vote. Once you do that, you will be prompted when and where your closest voting locations are. It's going to provide you with details on how to make sure that you can vote in a safe, accessible way. And for those of you who are on from the broader Indian American community, Joe Biden, as we heard today, is doing everything he can to lift up the voices of Indian Americans and of folks from around the Gujarati community. So what I want to share with you is Joe Biden's agenda for the Indian American community. He is the first presidential candidate to ever release a plan like this. I'm sharing it in English and in Hindi. I'll also share it out in a follow-up email with you tomorrow. Please do everything you can to share this information with your friends and with your colleagues. Now, what I want to do is make sure that everyone who is on this call is doing everything they can to help us elect Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. I would like to introduce to you my friend, Chanda, from the Dallas-Fort Worth area. Chanda is a great activist and advocate for the South Asian vote. She comes from the Gujarati community herself, and she's going to talk to you about a very quick and exciting way in which you can join and support the Joe Biden and Kamala Harris ticket in just a couple days this upcoming weekend.
Thank you so much, Kareem. And I just want to thank all the aunties and uncles for sharing their wisdom with us and telling the truth. So thank you so much to the panelists out there. Namaste, friends and family. My name is Chanda Parbu. I landed in Texas 43 years ago as Chanda Patel. Back then, there weren't very many of us. My dad owned motels sprinkled all over Texas and owned his own commercial real estate firm. Insurance and banking institutions often discriminated against him and his brother. And I can't remember how many times I was told to go back where I came from. Every immigrant has their story to tell. Kamala Harris reflected back with her mom to say how often she felt she was overlooked because of her accent. We all face discrimination in silence and in shadows. There was no support system for us to lean on. Our voices were silent. Fast forward to 2020, the tide has changed. We have almost 235,000 registered South Asians in the state of Texas. And we almost have 200,000 people that we have yet to register. Really important number because we need to look into our community and make sure everybody is registered. Those are numbers that cannot be ignored. This is our time to shine. This was the birth of our organization that I formed called the South Asian American Voter Empowerment Group, or SAVE Texas. Our mission is to increase the political power of Texas's progressive South Asian American community through education, engagement, and empowerment. We no longer have to stay in the shadows, but this means that we have to vote. It's time to take the power of our numbers and make sure our voices are heard. As South Asians, we will determine critical races around the state of Texas. In Irving, we have a congressional district that has 24,000 South Asians. We lost that district in the last cycle by 8,000 votes, yet 11,000 South Asians did not come out to vote. This cycle, we can make a difference by getting Candace Valenzuela elected. A similar district in the Plano area, House District 66. We have almost 10,000 South Asians in that district. We lost that district by 321 votes, yet